joining us via Zoom. We know you're isolating for good reasons. Get well soon, please. And today is the 27th day of September. It's our last council meeting for this month, and we're calling the meeting to order. We recognize that we have the Harris in our gallery, so welcome. And we have our Channel 32, the McCarthy's. Thank you so much for being here again today. We have an agenda that needs to be adopted. Councillor Brown.
I make a motion to approve the agenda from the 27th day of September 2022.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Burton, can I see your hand? No. Thank you very much. Now we know it works. All right, we now have a delegation. Councillor, we have Ellie Harris and his wife. Ellie, if you like to come to the podium here with your wife and help us understand what it is that you're trying to achieve regarding the little parcel of land by two of your properties.
They have a map and they have what you sent in.
Okay.
So they should have, so they're on the same page there when you're referring to the piece.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Hi, councillors, remote, councillors locally. So as the information you were given, basically there's that little strip of land adjacent to two of our properties that has no physical purpose. It's 8 feet wide, 330 feet long, and since we took over the house we live in as well as the lot that attaches to the highway, we've maintained that property, but we can't do anything with it because it's legally not ours. So the motion, or if you want to call it that, I guess, that I presented basically, or the case I'd like to make is I'd like to have control of that land, either through different means, such as that I've discussed with Nolan Card. I think that was in part of my letter. Some of the things I suggested were chopping the piece up amongst the properties. There'd be 3 of us affected. But Nolan said that'd be a lot of work, a lot of thousands of dollars, and it's really ineffective. So another option I had or suggested on there was an easement, which would give us the right, obviously, to move our fence, maintain the property, and then the town would still have access, because there's a power pole there that needs to be serviced on occasion. So basically an easement would be another option, which would be quick and easy, fairly incostly, whatever, not non-costly, whatever the word is there. Wouldn't cost much.
Cheaper, yeah.
Cheaper, there you go. And then the third option that I presented, I believe, on my letter, if I remember correctly, is to just outright purchase it. And then we can do as we want with it. It's a strip of land. It already has a designated number. And I'm up for either or, preferably the easement or a purchase. And it just comes down to how council feels about that.
Okay, so Eli, there is a question I have for administration. If option 3 is the one that council choose to go along with, which is the outright purchase of that piece of land, the whole length, if there is need of servicing, then we need to have some kind of agreement so that that property can still be opened up to a worker. Am I correct? Just trying to understand that little
Yes,
bit.
that's where the easement part comes in too, is, but go ahead,
Councillor
Jeff.
Grainger and Burton, can you hear me? Maybe not. Oh, there we go. Now I'm really echoey and loud, so I'll sit back just a bit. To your question, I think Mr. Harris was talking that potential, so an easement could go a couple of ways. We could give him one over our property, or he could give us one over what might be his property. Right, so we have lots and lots of utility easements over other third-party properties if we needed to access that for future use. But
Okay.
You obviously have realized this is a pretty unique little piece of land. It's we've never dealt with an unusual piece like this, but Yes, we could work easements likely both ways depending on which made the most sense for ownership.
All right. So from your perspective, you would prefer the option that has a lease cost attached to it, I would imagine.
I would say it's the easiest as well as, the most affordable. Affording is always an interest these days, every day.
Right.
So that's why I made the suggestion of if I were to get an easement for the property, it stays the town's. The power pole stays there, it can be maintained, and I'm just moving a fence.
Yeah, but option 3, you said, was purchase a whole
Yeah.
land, but you still intend to move the fence?
Yeah, because right now, there's an 8-foot strip behind my fence that you can't do anything with. You can't drive a vehicle
Right.
in it, you can't park
Right.
in it. I just get on my little riding lawnmower and have a good day, right?
So you still would move the fence?
Yeah, but if we owned it, for example, if we owned it and had an easement on the town's behalf for that power pole, I could put a gate, because we have 2 dogs, so I
Right.
could gate the yard behind that pole if that was, the means, and then it still has an access, and then we
Okay.
can still control it.
All right, so that answers my question there. Councillor Jensen, Councillor Brown?
So my question is kind of to Mr. Harris and to Mr. Shaw, that if they purchase this, then will they be taxed for it?
Yeah, well, it's a piece of
And Mr. Harris is aware of that then?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Brown?
So first of all, I think it's very important to say that this couple has gone above and beyond. Their yard is fantastic. They took yards that were not the most fabulous and have made them amazing. So it's not like their request is so that they can hoard something or 14 vehicles for Eli to work on or something crazy, right? Like, I think that's important because we would look at this a little bit differently if you were, say, a hoarder, which I know you're
Yes,
not.
no.
So I just
My-
think that's important for council to know that it's beautiful, it's mowed, it's taken care of. They've made this property look like the Garden of Eden. It's really beautiful.
Perfect, thank you.
Can one of you come and show me where you actually live and where
Oh,
your
that
property
was the
is?
old-
Okay.
It was the old,
Okay, let's see your map here. So that's the strip we're talking
You're
about.
right.
We own this 444 and we're at 129.
Okay. And this is the other guy you're,
That's Mark and Gay Griffith,
okay.
and this is Jacob Creed.
So you're gonna have to deal with them, what,
Well, actually, interesting you should mention that.
not
So
really.
I was a little proactive, and I have 2 letters here, one from Jacob Creed and one from Mark and Gay Griffith. Neither one are opposed to me purchasing the land if the town decides to sell it. So, and on top of that, so I can give you guys a copy. I haven't given to anybody, but I can give you a copy. I can give you letters if you want, doesn't matter. But just to show I'm not trying to hide anything, and they're definitely not opposed to me taking over the property.
Councillor Burton, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, a question for the Harrises. So in the event that we went with option 3, which will be my preference,
Yeah, me too.
and you then would own that parcel, if you were to consolidate it with either of your existing lots, which is probably what I would do if I owned that land, then the easement that the town would have would be on the whole of your title. I know that's kind of a technical legal thing, but in other words, if you make it all one title with any portion of it with either of your other 2 lots or both of them, then that easement automatically would be on your whole title. Does that make any difference to you at all?
I don't want to sound like I contradict you, but I don't fully agree with that in the sense that I currently have, easements can be very specific. So we could.
Just so you know my background, I practiced
Okay.
real estate
No,
law
you-
for about
okay. No,
15
that's
years, so
fine.
I'm fairly comfortable in the area. So
Okay.
I'm just saying that in the event that we had an easement over that parcel before we sold it, in that process of selling to you, we kept an easement on it, we reserved an easement, and then you consolidated what I'll call the strip title with your lot title to make it one piece, which would reduce your taxes would be one reason to do that, then that easement automatically is on that residual title, that new title, the whole of it. And I'm just wondering, assume that I'm right for a minute, does that make any difference to you that that would be that way?
Not necessarily. There again, like I said, I mean, your understanding is obviously more in depth than mine. The example I was going to give is 2 years ago we put a new driveway in our lot 129, and we put the edge of the driveway exactly on the property line. So by the looks of it, 6 inches of the driveway is sitting on my neighbor Mark and Gay's property. We went to the lawyer's office and we signed an easement for 1 foot of their north yard. So that's always there. So if they were to sell, it doesn't become an issue. So if it's a specific easement such as that, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But if it was all of a sudden now somebody else has the right to take over or use all the land as they see fit, then yes, I would have an issue.
No, so ours would be limited to what they call an easement right away, which would just typically it's so many feet of access, presumably 8 feet, and that would entitle us to go on that. I don't know the directions on your map, northwest, whatever it is, 8 feet of the property for the purpose of accessing our utility.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because let's say the first, I live in Canada, I don't speak metric. So the first 60 feet, first 60 feet, I'm old school, yeah. The first 60 feet of property is already a driveway. It's already access to our lot. And essentially the plan is to keep it that way. So
Okay.
I'm not too concerned if we had an 8 foot wide easement that gave you a utility right away. That's fine by me.
All right.
Because
I
I would, Mayor, if I may, that
Please.
easement would restrict you from building anything in that 8 feet. That's one reason why I'm asking, right? If we have an access over that strip, you couldn't build a structure there that would prevent, say, a service vehicle from getting in.
Okay, so if we wanted to fence it, say we put a gate on there, would the easement go the length of the property or would it end at a certain point and we could open the gate if somebody needed to drive in?
Yep. Yeah, that would work.
The gate would work.
Okay, then that's fine.
yeah, that's what I was wondering. This question.
We could give you access to the gate.
Well, I think if we have a pole to be serviced, we'll need it. All right. So I don't see anyone that is feeling contrary to your options at this council. So I think there is no place here
No, we'll have it on the
later on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will discuss that more later on, and by tomorrow you will have an answer, maybe.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for coming to council to present.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I literally, today is my travel day to and from work every day. So if I wasn't on vacation, I couldn't be here. So
Well,
thanks for having
Thank
me.
you so much.
And
And
Great way
good,
to spend vacation.
yes, well, that's the worst. I'm landscaping as usual, so
yeah.
States or?
yeah, we were gonna go on a holiday, but instead I'm digging dirt in my backyard. But thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, our next delegation will be a little bit later on, depending how fast we move along.
I'm cooking over here.
So we will go along with adoptions of minutes, the council meeting minutes of September the 13th. Councillor Kenley?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of September 13th, 2022.
All right. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, now let's move on to bylaw and policy. We have the bylaw 1647J, land use bylaw amendment for a Class B licensing. In May, we had asked administration to come up with an amendment, and we were going to, sooner or later, deal with it by way of motion. So today we would entertain first reading of the land use bylaw amendment, Class B licensing. So is there anybody around the table that's willing to put a motion forward?
I can put a motion forward.
Councillor Brown, go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve bylaw 1647J land use bylaw amendment.
First reading.
First reading.
Yeah.
Might be really
Sorry.
jumping to a
Wow.
conclusion you don't
First
want.
reading. Yeah.
Don't give me a heart
Sorry.
attack.
First reading only.
All right. We all have received a fair amount of email. We've all have received a fair amount of letters. Does anybody else want to talk to the topic? Councillor Kenley, Councillor Brown.
I just wanted to confirm that if we do pass this, we still have the opportunity to do the public hearing, correct? Or whatever our discussion
Yes.
Yes.
that we've talked about.
Whatever depth of public consultation.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's just as we spoke before, what comes first, the consultation or the amendment vote? So that is the question.
That's actually what I was going to say. By approving this, it doesn't mean we're approving alcohol. What it is we're approving the right to hear from the public on alcohol and what they would like to happen in Cardston, is my understanding.
Yeah, that is a correct understanding. It all depends what is the appetite for people to have consultation first and a bylaw after. Around this table, I think that's pretty well where it will come to.
Yep.
It's, I think that's a fair way to represent it.
Thank you.
All right, so any other comment, discussion? If not, we're going to go to the vote. So if you are in favor of having the first reading to the land use bylaw, I'm calling the question now. In favor? Okay, thank you. Opposed? It fails.
We're finished.
Thank you.
May I-
Let's,
Can I
yes.
make a comment?
Please
after
go
this vote?
ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make it clear that no, I didn't cave in. No one came to me and forced me to change my vote or anything else. It is simply this. My feelings is that this is being driven by council, and that is what I'm against. I want a delegation to stand in front of us and tell us that that's what they want. And and at that point, then we can start putting the horse before the cart. We can do the education, which I now see Councillor Brown was trying to get us to do, but I just didn't get it. And so I want to back up and reboot and start again so that we can kind of do it in a different way, so that none of us are being attacked by citizens, and that it is brought so that I just feel like we're saying, hey, citizens of Cardston, we as council know what's best for you, and I don't think we do. And I think that they need to come and stand before us as a delegation and say, this is what we want, and then we can start the education and the public forums and the bylaw and everything. I'm not necessarily against the prohibition. I'm against the process that we went through to get to where we're at. That's all I'm saying.
Councillor Jensen, thank you for taking the time. Thank you. All right, on the 6 other business, 6A, community engagement plan. So it goes along maybe with your desire, Councillor, to see an engagement ahead of a bylaw presented to council if we had to revisit this item. So, do you want to talk about that community engagement? Are you satisfied that it would be useful in the future, or do we need to relook at it? Councillor Burton.
Mayor, could you just clarify, are you talking about, excuse me, community engagement on the proposed
On the
land use
AGL,
bylaw?
on the AGLC licensing. That's what it was. It was on the 6A Community Engagement Plan is a document that Shem crafted
Right.
a little bit in a similitude of the
Raymond.
Raymond document, the one
So
that
question-
Councillor
Okay, so-
Brown long time ago was referring to.
So
Long time ago.
when I left our last
It's a long-
meeting, I was a little bit confused about whether it was our opinion that we had satisfied Councillor Brown's approved motion, or if there was something left hanging on the table. I think Councillor Grainger was of the opinion that it was hanging out there in the wind, and I don't know that we ever resolved that issue.
Okay. Councillor Brown, do you want to maybe address that?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, speaking of hanging, yes, my point to bringing up the, I wanted to hear from the public on whether it was a plebiscite, whether it was a survey, whether it was education. I felt like I thought it was important that our taxpayers have a say as to whether they would like alcohol in Parks and Rec in Cardston. And I too didn't feel it was appropriate for council to just jump ahead in doing it without talking to the public. And so, I mean, since then, of course, all heck broke loose, and we've received quite a few emails, some angry, some fantastic, on both sides. And so I just thought it was important for us to make sure that we were doing our due diligence. And so when I brought up that motion, Councillor Burton, I felt the need for public consultation. Did I know exactly what that looked like? No, but I did know how Raymond had done it, and it was my understanding that Shem had gotten some stuff together and that he was going to be, if we got to that stage, that would be coming forward, was my understanding. So no, I definitely don't feel like we've done it, because if we all remember back to the original motion, it wasn't that we were approving alcohol, it was we were talking about looking into possibilities. So
Okay. So, Councillor, do you want to take a good look at that document and we'll revisit it, or do we leave it alone?
It's a dead issue.
Okay.
Councillor, as Jensen's made it clear, she wants to see a delegation come forth and present to the council why they think there should be alcohol. So until that happens, there's no sense in talking alcohol at all.
Okay, Councillor, I appreciate your point of view. Thank you. All right, 6B, it was, Councillor Burton had brought this item was brought from another meeting, but it's not needed at this point, correct, Councillor? Okay. So 6C, Chinook Arch Regional Library System request. As you can see, Councillor, the funding for the Chinook Arch is not going to go without an increase for the next 5 years, from what I can see. So here is an interesting remark. For those of you who were at the Bear Pit, that question about funding on library came up as a question, and somebody asked, do you realize that costs and inflation and all that needs to be factored in the amount of money that the government would be willing to give to those organizations? And if you remember, the response of the ministers was that during the pandemic, there were two things that were not touched in matter of funding, which was the library and FCSS. And he left it at that, meaning don't hope for more. It's not going to happen. And what he started saying that there are other priorities and now need more funding. So it gave me the feeling from that conversation that more funding from the government will not be coming. Therefore, that doesn't give those organizations much more hope than, especially the library, than to increase their requisition. So what I need to know from this council is, are you willing to go along with it? In the past, we have not always got along with it.
In as much as that it's a minimal amount, I would move that council approve the Shinnecock Library Board 2023-26 municipal levy schedule.
Yeah, okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Yeah, we don't like requisition to go up, but what can we do at this point? The Platinum Jubilee nomination, if you know of anybody who has done some extraordinary work for our community or in our community or around the community, the region, please make sure that you take the time to nominate them. On the 6E, Jeff just gave us a letter. Jeff, you may want to address that for us.
Sure. So
It's
sorry.
regarding a letter to the,
Councillors
Alberta
Burton
Front.
and Grainger, I just emailed you a copy, but I'll give you the gist right here. And sorry to have to give it to you time of. Obviously, our last week was a little unorthodox, so this agenda came together a little bit differently. As we've talked about before, we are applying to the Alberta Crime Prevention Grant. And part of that is we need to show support from the local jurisdiction and from the applicant's board of directors, which is you. So I drafted just a very simple letter suggesting that as the town of Cardston supports our application, and you as a council, support the town's application. So the grant, I got it mostly finished up today. We intend to send it in tomorrow. And we've got a fairly broad scope, as we've talked about both at the policing committee and also at council. So hopefully it comes together. I have the RCMP I've asked to sign a letter tomorrow, and the chamber signed one today. And so we need at least 3 letters to go in. So we're just trying to get that in today and tomorrow, and then we should be able to send it in tomorrow. So I'm just seeking a motion to approve this letter, Mayor.
thank you, I appreciate that letter, Jeff. Councillor Brown?
Before I do that, I just wanted to take a minute and let council know that I heard some fantastic hearsay through the grapevine on how amazing Jeff was at AUMA when he and some of councillors met with different ministers, how on point, and they were literally wowed. So I just think that's
I'm
appropriate.
You have a thumbs up from Councillor Burton.
Anyway,
There was
I
3 of
just-
them that
It's
can
on
speak
Councillor
firsthand to it, I
Grainger.
guess, so.
I just think it's, we're always hearing negatives, and I just think you did a fantastic
Good.
job, and I really appreciated how you are looking out for the people in Cardston.
course.
So thank you. So I would also like to make the motion. So I make a motion on that note to send the letter as written to the Alberta, are you waiting?
I'm
No,
preventing.
no,
Oh,
you're
okay.
good.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Oh, sorry.
I'm willing to make a motion to send the letter to Alberta Crime Prevention Grant Community Initiative Support for the Alberta Justice and Solicitor General Grant.
Councillor, you wanted to say
I sat in on
something?
both meetings, he wasn't that great.
Way to bring me down quickly, Councillor. Thanks very much.
Jeff was well prepared, we were right on point, and they were paying attention, both sessions were
Yeah.
looking right at him. And paying
I
right attention
understand,
to it. I feel confident that these grants are probably gonna come through.
I understand
No
that
pressure.
you guys had to do your presentation fairly late in the day when everybody was kind of burnt out, except that you were able to arouse a little bit of life in
What did
them.
they say? Were we the 32nd or something presentation that day, or the transportation at 6
Transport guys, they were
p.m.?
the late guys.
Yeah, that was tough.
Councillor Grainger? Councillor Grainger?
Yeah, I just want to echo what everybody has said. Jeff, I was at the sewage plant one. He just blew the doors right off of it. It was amazing, succinct, to the point, but also very calming, very methodical. And I was, if you can believe this, speechless He didn't really have to say anything. We said a couple of comments, and it
Councillor
was amazing.
Grainger, if you manage to be speechless, I am enthralled.
Well, thanks,
All right.
Councillor Grainger.
We have a motion on the table. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Mayor, the copy you have is the one I need signed. It's the colored one.
Okay, do you want maybe to come and get it?
Sure. Then I can send it off tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, there is some committee reports, not too many. I think we're just starting to go back into our regular routine. I have no questions.
May I make one comment on mine?
Please
So
go
with
ahead.
With the Solid Waste Committee, I would just raise the thought, the commission is at the start of the process of considering whether or not to own all of the facilities, if you will.
Yeah,
And so, I don't know where that's going to lead us, but it may, at the end of the day, result in a better product. So just administration, if you can kind of have that in your head and give me any feedback you have on that point over the next couple of months, that would be good.
Councillor Burton, can you maybe send us all a little bit of a questionnaire and or even a question as a reminder, so we would reply to you?
So right now, it's really just conceptual. I think for all of the facilities, the commission either owns them or at least contractually has an obligation to maintain them.
Right.
But throughout the area, it's very, very sporadic, and some we hire all the people, some the community itself hires the people, and some are in more or less disrepair. And anyway, as Marion leads us through that, probably later I will have more detail, but I just wanted to put that thought out there. The other interesting thing that I'll tell you, I don't know how many sites there are, 17 or whatever there are. She did an analysis of cost per ton to process the waste. And we had the least by far of anybody. So we were, I'm going by memory, somewhere around $300 a ton. And there were communities that were probably 10 times that. So, we're part of that is our volume results in lower cost per ton, but I think things are going fairly well for us if we're decidedly the lowest cost in the whole organization. So we just want to have that in mind as we're going forward. Would it end up costing us more or less, or just what that would look like? So anyway, just wanted to add that.
Okay, so maybe, Jeff, we could have it brought back at a future meeting, maybe?
I have a note for that very.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll bring it back and have a little bit of a discussion around the table regarding that. And maybe you can enlighten us as to the different options, possibly. Thank you. All right, any other question you may have, councillors? All right. Maybe you want to quickly give me an overview. How did you feel this year's AB Muni conference was for you? Is that something that you feel that we need to really every year carry on with that, or what's your feelings?
If it continues the way it was this last week, I don't think we're wasting our time sending 7 people up there. We only had 2 sessions, Wednesday morning, and that was it. The rest of it had to do with going to see different cabinet ministers, or a speech here, or talk there, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Councillor Burton, Councillor Brown?
So I started to lose interest Tuesday morning, culminating in COVID. That tells you my experience.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
So I actually was going to talk to you about this very thing because I was talking to a couple other municipalities and we all kind of felt the same, and that was that, and I actually talked to Tanya Thorne, who represents us,
Right.
of how sad I was because I love getting together in the smaller classes where we
Right.
can have discussion groups and pick other people's brains.
Right.
And to me, I had a few opportunities, but not a week's worth of the taxpayer money. And so that saddened me. And she said anyway, I'll leave it at that. And so I think we should do what some other municipalities were talking about doing, and that was sending 3 or 4 rather than a full council, because 3 or 4 they felt was more feasible for the taxpayer, and with the amount of stuff that was going on, unless Alberta Municipalities really kicks their game up and has steady classes so that we're continuing learning and those things. But I definitely did not feel
Yeah.
it worth. I just didn't. And I went to every single thing from morning till night, and I was sad.
Yeah, I did the whole thing on Zoom, except that what was interesting me, which were the classes, were not on Zoom.
What?
Yeah, the classes were not. And I thought, oh, okay, Councillor Grainger.
Last year, which was my first one, there were 2 days of technical educational sessions, and this time there was only half a day. So I think that that's a big hole in, and I think that's what Councillor Brown was suggesting. I was also there when she spoke to the director, and I think we all agreed that we need to see more technical sessions that were very worthwhile. I did learn a number of things, and one of the things I came away with is the fact that we are not alone in terms of trying to replace aging infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so the 2 sessions I did attend were quite worthwhile, and I've got some thoughts and ideas that I can share, down the near road with the rest of council in terms of funding and how we can go about being able to afford some of these projects. I did learn something, so it wasn't a total loss, but I would agree that that this one kind of fell short.
Yeah, when I saw the agenda, I felt it was pretty slim in content, and that was a little bit the feeling I had. Councillor Jensen?
I'd just like to echo what everyone else said. I really did enjoy the 2 classes that I did take. I also enjoyed the group ones too. Being new, I thought they were great. But the one thing I really appreciated was that the last 2 days were all in the same room, so I wasn't wandering around lost, trying to find a specific room or whatever. So.
All right, thank you.
Quick aside, the outgoing premier probably gave the best speech I ever heard from him.
Yeah, it
was
was
funny,
it was a very relaxed.
Very relaxed. That's
Very, very relaxed. Anyways, thank you for your comments, and I really think, Jeff, next year we might want to kind of look at it a little bit of a different way. Councillor Kenley, do you have the feeling with the planning session that we did through Zoom was good, and I appreciated that?
Good. I haven't been to either one, so I can't really give an opinion of it, but the planning session's always
the planning session
good.
You enjoyed? Yeah, I thought that was good and well planned. Thank you, Jeff, for that. It's a lot of work. All right, let's move on. On the 9, correspondence, National Indigenous Economic Strategy. So that is a fairly large document. It's an interest document. If you have a chance, read it. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters regarding the prohibition, and I honestly want to thank all the citizens who have taken the time to write and to give their opinion, although many are pretty well coming from the same template. But regardless, it represents a certain opinion. And so on either side, both for and against. So
I'd like to know what you think by, what you mean by template.
What I'm
These are all
trying.
individual citizens that
Yeah,
wrote in.
no, what I'm trying to say, Councillor, that about 2 or 3 councils ago, there was one letter that came, and in a paper there was the anonymous letter, and a lot of the thing of those individual letter sometimes even have the same language, the same sentence that come from there.
I didn't see
So-
that. I
But
didn't see that at all.
no matter what it is, Councillor, I really appreciate people who take the time to write on either side.
That somewhat offends me that you would say it was a template and they were just copying
Okay,
whatever other people were
so
doing.
I'm sorry, I will remove that. It's not my ideas that they were copying, but there was similar idea that came through in all those, but it's normal. And either side. It was not only on one side, it was the other side that were given the similar kind of feel and flair. All right. Regarding the National Police Federation, just an update. And the report of Annabelle Kropp-Earwolf on the racism that was done. Jeff and I were at that session. I'm not sure that that letter represents exactly all our position, but it is something that I would like to explore a little bit more, is that notion of racism and definition, because it seems to me that the way it's understood by First Nation and by us, we're not exactly on the same page through the understanding, and I would like to understand where the gap is. And that is it. So we can go in closed session.
I make a motion to go in closed session.
Thank you. All in favor?